Hello and welcome to the second episode of That Saints podcast. It's been an interesting month since we did the first episode back in April. Interesting times, things happening at the Saints. So who's with us today? Usual suspects, I'm Graham Cunliffe. We've got Adi O'Sullivan, Gaz Tinsley and Steve Orford are with us. Evening, chaps.
Evening. All right.
And we've got Steve Beach on the buttons, technical expert, because none of the rest of us can do anything with these this equipment we've got. But thanks for helping us out, Steve. What are we looking at tonight? Well, we'll have a look back at the last three games since the last episode. We've got Catalans away to look at, Salford at home, and the Halifax Challenge Cup game. We'll be looking at what's coming up in the next month, which you'll see is probably a season-defining month coming up for the Saints. We'll have a look. Well, yes, discipline. We have to talk about Morgan, don't we? And we're having a little chat and a look at the World Cup and what comes next. So, where do we start? Well, since our last episode, the Saints have been away to Catalan. We had Salford at home and Halifax in the Challenge Cup. Let's have a look at the Catalan away game, lads. Bit of a disappointing one, I think it's fair to say. Catalan 24, Saints 12. Again, we went into a 12-0 lead after a pretty pressurised opening 20 minutes for the Saints, and we're looking good, and then we fell apart. What are our thoughts about that trip there? I'm going to start us off, Steve.
I think that's about right, yeah. I think the first 15 minutes or so, they were sort of putting a lot of pressure on us in our sort of 20, but we defended it really well. But as the game wore on, the more possession we got, we didn't have that defensive resolve that you normally associate with us, and we sort of just caved in.
Yeah.
Interesting, it was the third time this year we'd lost a 12-point lead.
Yeah.
So that's obviously something that they've got to, as the pros would say, fix up.
Yeah.
But 3 times out of what at the time was the 8-9 games.
It's unusual for the Saints.
That's too many, isn't it, to be losing those sorts of leads. So
yeah.
It was a worrying situation, and also our strategy defensively of leaving the wide spaces, the wings open, didn't really work. When you think that Tom Davis helped himself to 2 tries, and the kick for that Sam Tompkins put over there for his second try. I mean, he's all by himself. He had the freedom of the whole city by himself. So we're leaving, at times, possibly too much space out on those wings, and we're getting exploited.
I thought we were a little unlucky on that last one because Tom Davis is not that fast. By the time he caught that ball near the line, and he's not that quick.
It's positional, though, isn't it? It's positional rather than...
I think it's really poor, the coverage. How they haven't got a camera on that is shocking. They had numerous views from the video of playing the try back, but nothing not one view with Tom Davis on it.
Yeah. Apart
from the one where he catches the ball 6 inches from line and puts it down.
Well, you could see the standoff from the centre, and then Tom Davis was nowhere, so he must have been offside.
It's always been the way that if the referee gives it and the player's not in shot, they're not going to rule it out because they can't prove it's not a try.
I get that, but I just think from as a TV coverage, it's incredibly poor, and it happens all the time. That kick to the winger, they don't capture it.
We're very often exposed out wide, and I think it's the policy or the system or style of defence that we will stop the winger in the corner because we jam in, don't we?
I see it a bit different, that Catalan game. I think Catalan planned for it because suddenly everybody that was injured wasn't. Tompkins is playing. Mitchell Pearce suddenly's fit.
Yeah.
Taki Heath or whatever he's called, who's meant to be banned, wasn't banned. So it was like I genuinely think they are the major threat this year. I don't see it as Warrington. I don't see it as Wigan. I see it as Catalan. I think their signings in the off season. I'm going to go for it again. Taki Heath or whatever.
Ikahifo is the other one, is it?
The same guy.
Ikahifo plays for
the Giants.
Is he the Giants now again?
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Well, hang on. Who's the centre? Who's the centre?
Ikavalu.
Yeah.
So the signings.
Easy for us to say.
Just make me keep saying it. Taki Heath or whatever. Monstrous. Absolute superstar signing from the Roosters, and when he came on, you were like, "Oh my god!" Keane, the guy in the centre,
Adam Kieran,
top draw. Ikavalu, superb. Did us with a couple of times. He passes out to Davis. Tom Johnston, we know Tom Johnston's good if he can stay fit.
Well, Davis is a class winger as well, I think.
Yeah, Davis is good, and they've offloaded clowns like Dudson and Cassiano. Brilliant transfer management, and they're getting the repercussions of it. I thought Morg was outstanding. That try was unbelievable. He just
I think he's one of them players that's
that
always going to look good behind a better pack and getting better bit of space because he's quick. AD, do you have a chance to see this game?
Yeah, I did. Not in the flesh, but I watched it on the box. What frustrates me is, like you said, we went into a 12-point lead and we scored that, and you're thinking, we're looking like saints here now. We're looking like saints, and then it all goes tits up again.
And we scored two smashing tries.
Yeah, but those tries were against the run of play. We had 2 possessions and scored 2 brilliant tries. If you're looking at the stats, possession-wise, we'd have been nowhere. We had 2 superb tries, fair play. But that was the only time we've been in their half.
Yeah, but that's all we need to, because we have been, like, when you look at the recent success, we've been a very clinical side, both in defence and attack. But our defence has been clinical. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, was Batch missing?
Yeah,
that game.
It's injuries.
We were underpowered. We were very underpowered against.
There is the injury, and I think that defensive style we play. If you've got everybody fit and firing, because it is such a risky defensive style, you have got to nail it. You have got to get it right. And when we nail it and get it right, we're almost unbeatable in this country. It really is. But you've got to have, and I think the loss of Batchelor, and I think when he came back. And he was so vocal and the way he leads that team around. But like I say, I get disillusioned with him because, and it's not like you say, it's happened a few times this season. We get into a situation in a match and then for some reason we just lose it. As in, people talk all about discipline, and we'll come to discipline after, but discipline isn't just about staying on the field, it's about doing your job whilst you're on the field. And we seem to have players going away from that. On the defensive side of things, you need discipline with the ball, don't drop it. You need discipline defensively, do your job. And then you've got discipline regarding getting sent off for knobheadery. But
also, don't give penalties away and 6 against and that sort of thing.
Exactly. And it all comes under that discipline umbrella, and that is what we're just out on it. I mean, I know we only seen it once really in the Warrington game, but still the same players who can still do the same damage if they behave themselves and if they play. I mean, we have had injuries. We've had injuries last year. Crikey, we were butchered at times last year, but everybody that came in did the job and was disciplined and did what they were supposed to do.
I think we got more this year.
We have been particularly hard hit this year in the pack, especially. We had 6 of our main forwards out 2 or 3 weeks in a row.
And I think the other thing that we did as well, which we do seem to do every match, in that game we also lost Hurrell for 10 minutes.
Well, I was going to say that, and we'll talk.
We seem to do that.
Yeah.
Discipline.
I mean, we'll talk about
discipline issue.
We'll talk about discipline in a bit more detail.
The stupid one it was
later. But that Catalan game is a key because I think we lost Hurrell when we were 12-6 up, and they scored from that next move. And now to lose a player for mouthing off at the ref is ridiculous, really, at that level.
Schoolboy stuff.
It's schoolboy stuff. But I mean, I can see why he argued with the decision because Liam Moore gave a penalty against Johnny Lomax for knocking somebody over. Well, that forward was knocking Johnny out the defensive line, and it shouldn't have been a penalty for me, but that's what it was. But mouthing off at the ref to go off and then equalise it, and the next set in the next half, we give a penalty away for shepherding somebody away from a high ball and they kicked the goal and we're behind then. So it is an issue, and we'll have a look at that in a bit more detail. But I think we were disappointing, but we were certainly underpowered in that game.
Underpowered, and you know what? We very, very, very rarely win though.
No, it's true. It is true.
It is I think, like Gaz said there as well, and for the last few years, they're a good side, and then like Gaz ran through some of the players they've brought in. They've got everything that's needed, haven't they? They really have. And when you say that they are our biggest threat, I can't disagree with that at all. Where we are at this moment in time, I wouldn't have confidence facing them on our own pitch at the moment.
No,
because we're in the doldrums a little bit. I think they are genuinely a good side who have signed very well.
They're getting consistent, and they're not losing as many games on the road now.
I don't know if I might be wrong here, but they seem more professional than they've ever done. At the minute, they seem like a well-drilled professional outfit, which at one point you always knew that Catalan at some point in the season were going to go a few weeks, they just implode and they'd turn into a basket case of a team and they'd get some good hidings, but you just don't see that this year at all.
And I think they're shipping them players out. As you've seen 2 of them go.
Yeah. Maybe Big Bernard has had enough, has been almost there, nearly there, sick of giving everybody a holiday.
I think he's got the cash out,
Well, I think
he's going to do it next year and all. There's already some early signings for next year.
I think he's stuck with his coach as well, because isn't McNamara the longest serving coach now?
Probably.
He's been there a while.
It's 4 or 5 years now, isn't it?
He's been there a while, yeah.
Yeah, so I think he's probably reaping the dividends of that, to be fair to him.
Yeah.
So, okay. Right, well, that was disappointing. Catalans 24, Saints 12, and the next home game, we think we all had a little bit of trepidation of the visit of Salford, but wasn't too bad. St Helens 26, Salford 12. Interesting game, and ironically, we were 12-0 down in this one after about 20 minutes.
Reverse, wasn't it?
It's the reverse.
We just talked about.
So
12-0 down.
What were your thoughts on this, Steve? I'll come to you first on that, mate.
Well, like we've just discussed, it wasn't a great start, was it?
No.
When you're getting cut to ribbons down the middle by King Vuniyayawa, it's time to kind of, have a look at yourselves. And that was a great try by Croft initially, and I think Brearley scored the second one as well.
A very similar one, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it looked bleak at that point, but I thought after that we got a bit of a grip on the game, and we were full value, I thought, for the win in the end. They came back. We were ahead, I think, by half time, and then never really looked like losing the second half.
No, I think we were low. It was 12-6 half time, wasn't it? Because we got that bell try. We got the bell try just on half time, and then we got blitz in after the second half.
With 4 tries, didn't we? In like 15 minutes.
Or they hit himself with 2 of them, didn't they?
So
can I mention that 2 of the players that came back for that game, Sivinen and Bachelor?
Yeah.
Sivinen, he picked the flick pass, which he looked like he threw it over his head, but when you watch it back in slow motion, he didn't. And he's tried himself. That's what you get being 6'5" when he's reached over the line. And then Batch steps the guy for it, and he was. I'd speak about Batch because he's right what he said earlier. But they, them coming back, and I put a lot of this down to people on the pitch. I really do. And if we can, I still truly believe if we can get our proper team on pitch, we'll beat them all.
No, I don't have an issue with that. I think that's probably right. But who'd have thought 3 years ago that Joe Batcher would have been one of the first names on the team sheet?
He struggled to establish himself for a good couple of years, didn't he? He was nowhere near the first team really when he first came from York.
And you know what he doesn't
see him getting in, but now he's like a huge part of what we do.
You know what he doesn't do? He doesn't get sin binned and he doesn't get banned.
Yeah, well,
exactly. And how does he manage it?
That's a right bonus.
How does he manage it when it's never anybody else's fault that he gets sent off?
Yeah.
How does he manage to avoid it?
You have to think he's a bit of a sharper tool than the rest of them.
I think you maybe have something there, yeah.
Well, I think when he first came, when he wasn't making it, obviously we remember at the time, Graham, you spoke about him very highly. You seen him outside of the game or away from the match. You spoke very highly of the lad. He got his head down. He worked hard. He did what he was asked to do. We saw him. I don't know if any of you guys were. I don't think it was. I went with another of our mutual friends. There was a forum down at the Saints, and just listening to the guy speak, I think when you say about the sharpest, he's intelligent.
He's a bright lad, yeah.
He's an intelligent
when
fella.
When he first signed, did we still have Taya and Peru in the back row? It was quite a hard back row to get into at the time, wasn't it?
He was. I think he was brought in about 5 years ago now, wasn't he? And he's had three seasons in, hasn't he?
They both played in 19, didn't they? Grand final, I think.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
He was there. He was certainly there for a couple of seasons without getting a game occasionally.
I think he's also got a leadership quality about him, which when you look at a team with Roby and Lomax and you think, how many leaders do you want? But no, Roby nor Lomax are the kind of leader that when you see Joe Batchelor on that pitch, if somebody does something wrong, he's screaming at them, he's in their face, he's giving people a rollicking when they need a rollicking, which has never been Roby's style. No. Isn't Johnny Lomax's style. But he does it constructively. It's not just like he spits his dummy out when we concede. So if somebody has made a genuine mistake, he gives it to him and he tells them. And I think for Sirinen, I mean, some of the little short passing play in that Salford game was superb from our lads. But Sirinen as a forward, who has had his disciplinary issues, as we know, but he's just a proper hard-nosed, tough as teak, good forward, isn't he? And we missed him immensely.
He's got an offload too. He's really good.
Yeah.
Really got a good offload.
A bit like a bigger version of Zeb.
Well, yeah. But I think Batch is massive for us. I really do. Big fan.
He was instrumental in that Salford comeback, and I think in his first game back, if I'm not wrong, he must have played like 75 minutes.
I think so.
You were like, how was he doing that?
But I think he tackles well. He rarely misses a tackle, but he runs good lines as well, and that makes a really big difference on attack. We've improved on attack since he's come back in.
He's more, as a player, he reminds me more than anybody has since. Now, I'm not saying he's in the same league as Chris Joynes, but like you say, the line never falling off a tackle, never making glaring mistakes, never being ill-disciplined. He just reminds me of Chris Joynes. I'm not saying he's as good as Chris Joynes. Chris Joynes legend, isn't he? But he's that kind of player, safe, secure, steady.
And he starts, doesn't he now? So if Metalti is fit and Sirinen are fit, and one of them's up bench.
He still plays, yeah.
He starts now.
I think
one of them's up bench.
I think if you write your pack down, there's Walmsley, Roby and Batcher are the first three.
That is the worry, though, for me. That go back to your point about leaders. Yes, we've got a lot of experience in the team now. Are we not getting? Is the age profile not getting a bit too high? So that we're going to have a lot of turnover of players over the next few years.
I've said, Steve, as much as James Roby is a god, but I've said for years, and Gaz will back me up on this, I've said it on when we even used to go back to the studio at WA12 days, we haven't got a true leader of men as such. Roby, you can't put any sort of slight on Robes.
Leads by example.
But sometimes
doesn't need to shout at people, just does follow me, innit?
Yeah, but sometimes you need somebody to get a grip of them, don't you?
It's one after another.
So I don't know. I mean, when you look at the captains, I think since Paul Wellens himself retired, he was, I think, for me, our last true leader. And that is in no way a slight on James Roby whatsoever. You can't slight a legend like him. But Paul Wellens had that leadership quality of by example, but also the getting a grip of people, pull your socks up kind of thing. Whatever's needed said, he said.
Yeah, it is. We may be storing up a problem for ourselves with the likes of the leaders in our pack retiring or coming to an age where they're not going to be looking for leaders.
You got Walmsley though, who's like he's 33 now,
but he doesn't seem to be that vocal.
Roby 37.
Here's one for you.
Lewis
Give it
37.
Morgan. Give it Morgan.
We'll come to Morgan in a minute.
Man U made Roy Keane captain.
I can't speak.
No, it's something perhaps we'll discuss towards the end of the season. What are we going to do?
So you're not on board with that one?
And we'll come to that.
Captaincy is not that important to me, but if I had to pick one, it would not be him.
Leadership is vitally important at this level.
I think leadership is important. I think I disagree with Eddie slightly. I think you can do it by example. I think Roby does influence the team in his own way.
But the point Eddie's making there, that the influence on our team are all getting to the back end of the careers now, and I don't see anybody.
You need to go younger.
The younger lads coming through.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately,
did you miss my comment here? I said give it Morgan.
Well, do you know what? Unfortunately, up until the last 12 or 18 months, 3 years ago, I thought Justin Holbrook said it. Morgan Knowles was nailed on future captain of that club. Justin Holbrook said it. Christian Wolfe said it, and he's just had one or two brain farts in recent times, shall we say.
You don't write the lad off. I was just saying, the Man U made Roy Keane captain.
I think out of the current crop of the younger ones, I'd still go with Morgan Knowles myself, to be honest.
Well, we'll come to Morgan in a sec. Just to tidy up on the last 3 games since the last show. Now we've got a Friday night's Challenge Cup visit to Halifax, which seemed to be a relatively comfortable 26-6 win. Always tricky going away to a championship club in the cup because they.
Do behave yourself, Mr. Cunliffe. This is the 4 times champions, World Club champions. We should have gone there and put 60 points on them.
This isn't my script, this man. I've wrote this down.
And we sent the first team.
I wrote this down. We sent the first team.
That really surprised me. How strong we sent.
It was a prime example of a team that plays by process. It was just process, when it should have been
Exactly.
Harlem Globetrotters. The fans have come out, Halifax fans came out, they didn't expect to win, they came out to see a good game and see what this magical Saints team is all
Is
about.
that, do you think, because we can't do that anymore, or is it because they were a little bit spooked by our form and we thought we've got to get a win, whatever happens here?
I'm unsure on that, Steve. I don't know, but something was when I saw that team and I was like, crikey, he's gone full tilt at this here. This is either he wants to put 50 points on him to blow away all the cobwebs, get some confidence back in, say we can annihilate teams with our best.
It's full tilt with what we had.
Maybe.
So there's no Connie, there's no Percy, so there's no magic in the centres. Opawati and Davis.
There's no pace in the team apart from Ritson.
Opawati and Davis, no way. So that's a problem straight away. No Roby, no Lees, no Sirinen. So he went. I pointed out to the. He has gone full steam. He did go with. Well, he went with everything he had, but he didn't have everything.
It was as strong as it could have been.
Yeah. Strong as it could have been.
All right. Well, let's just.
Apart from Roby.
I think we'll draw a line under that game.
I just thought it was disappointing that we didn't actually go out and like play a bit more expansively and put some points on. And we were, as Eddie says, really functional. And
it looked like we'd put the rack on the key on the rack because it was 26-0 after 50 minutes, I think.
Oh yeah, the game was never in doubt.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's disputing that, but it was just disappointing that the way they did it in a very functional kind of conservative style against a team who were never going to beat us in the memory of man, were they? So might not open up a little bit and play a bit more what Christian used to call footy.
Bit of footy.
Yeah.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
No injuries. And no Simbins. Oh no, sorry.
Yeah.
No injuries.
You're right, Gary. You're right. It wasn't a sin bin.
No, it wasn't a sin bin.
What was nice, sorry, Graham, was
Get in the bin. It was.
going away to a club like that in a cup match. Now, another subject for another show, but we need to do something about getting more games like that in the Challenge Cup for the sick of seeing the same old teams over and over again. Let's make the Challenge Cup what it was.
And for the clubs.
We can do a full show about that.
We need to
time.
go in a round earlier, at least, I think. Last 16 is ridiculous to me.
Yeah, because you
only win 2 games, you're in semi-final.
I know, but we had
Especially when finals in August.
Yeah.
It's not like the finals in May. It's in August.
And I think we got 4 all Super League games, didn't we? In that round when they came on. So it's probably
There were,
I
there
think
were
it's
5, I
unfair.
think.
Five, yeah. All right. Well, while we're on it, instead of looking forward to the next few games first, we'll switch and we'll talk about Morgan and we'll talk about discipline.
I was going to say that was part of that particular game, so it seems a good time.
Just a few little bits here. This is off the top of my head. Already this season we've played 11 or 12 games now.
11 league games.
11 league games. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it's 5 at least players banned for 2 games or more. Knowles, Sirinen, Matautia, Lees and Huddle. Can anybody think of any more? I think we've had...
Just on them, they've all been done at least twice as well, haven't they?
Sirinen and Metaltia have been repeat offenders.
I don't think there's any one of them who hasn't been done twice.
Yeah. And always the same thing with them, like late hits all the time.
But again, we come just looking at the games we've looked at. In the Catalan game, we had Huddle with a yellow, lost points while he was off. Matty Lees was off in the... Matty Lees got 10 minutes in the Salford game, did he? Or did he got banned later?
There's every chance.
Yeah, possible.
He didn't get carded at the time, I don't think.
He got canned later, didn't he?
Yeah. 2-game ban later,
Yeah, and of course, Friday night, we had another red card with Morgan, and he was just come first game back from a 5-game ban, which was I think that was his 2nd ban of the season, wasn't it? And he's on his 3rd now. I think he's only played 3 games, hasn't he?
Since September, he's had 4 bans.
Yeah.
And the one that got wiped off for the grand final, in the week of the grand final, for that playground bully nonsense of Chris Atkin in the
Here's the
semi-final.
question, though. Are we a victim of that Morgan Knowles appeal and we're getting a special treatment and there is a conspiracy, according to social media? Or are we just getting it wrong all the time? Is it coaching? Is it training? Is it the way we play? Is it
I think
being
we are
over-aggressive?
victims of our players' failure to learn that the game has changed and you can't play it like you used to be able to play it. So they fly in into these tackles and they know if they get it even slightly wrong, they're going to be sitting down for two matches. And all they do is complain and say, the game's gone or whatever. But that is the way the game is. You've got to adapt. Got to be smarter.
I think Sirinen was unlucky on that last one. You're 6'5" and 18 stone. You can't stop on a sixpence, and that was like a split second. And I just think because it's him, they done him again. I thought that one was really, really harsh. But you know, point I made before. You know, you go through the name. Huddle sent off against Leeds second time. It's the same guys, but they're all pivotal. So they're all key, and they've just got to stop doing it. And I think Wellow's got to sit down with them and just tune them in. It's management time, innit? He's got to sit down and put this right. Maybe they do it on the training paddock, but they've got to stop. We're losing games. Them early games we lost. It's because the first one we lost, Leeds, we played 20 minutes with 12 men. We can't keep playing games with 12 men.
We lost a man at Lee.
It's every
Lee's
match.
at Lee.
Lee, it was
and
Leeds.
when we were winning.
We was winning, yeah. And they scored twice in that 10 minutes.
We were winning at Catalan.
Yeah.
Burrell goes off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we need to get it. We need to. It's fine margins. I don't think.
Some of them are fine
Friday
margins, but some of them are stupidity.
Some of them
aren't
haven't
they?
been fine margins.
Yeah.
But
I think this one was a different level of stupidity. The Morgan Knowles was a different level of stupidity, wasn't it? I mean, there's 30 seconds left in the game. The game's over.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to go anywhere near him. I don't know what he's thinking when he flies in with his arm swinging and catches. We can argue maybe it came a little bit off the shoulder, and that's why he's only got 2 matches today, I think. But for crass stupidity after a 5-game
match
ban, I mean, it begged belief. I couldn't believe it.
I think, take this one aside, this Morgan Knowles one aside, some of them have been very fine margins, as Gaz said. I also think that, I mean, we're not the only team that gets these decisions and these bans against us, but I think our players play under an immense amount of pressure every week, and these guys who are your enforcers, shall we say, in a team that I mean, every time they go on the pitch, they must feel like they're in a powder keg. The pressure side of things, I mean, the amount of games and trophies they have won in the last 4 years, and maybe that just pushes them over that, because I don't for a minute believe that these players go out and intentionally think, I'm going to nail him late after he's kicked the ball. And I also think that other teams now know, because of the fine line that we play on, that if they're willing to take a smack, then they're willing to take a smack, and we might get a man sin-binned, and that's the best chance they've got of beating us. Which is, now I'm not saying that opposition teams are playing to get players sent off, not under any circumstances, but I think our players put themselves under an awful lot of pressure to get that shot in and get it 100% right, because when we do get it 100% right, we're almost unbeatable in the competition.
But as Gaz said before, it's never Batchelor, it's never Roby, it's never Walmsley. Why is it there's other guys that can't adapt to the rules, but those 3 or 4 players, they just, I know I'm setting them up now to get banned this weekend maybe, but to this point now, where we're talking now, they don't get banned. They can adapt to the new rules where the game is. And some guys just haven't got the brains, it looks like, to do that.
See, I don't know if the guys that are getting these repeated suspensions have got a slightly differing role in this. When I use it, rightly or wrongly, I'll use the word enforcers, like Sissinen, Matautia, Lees. You know that if you need somebody banging and banging hard, they're the men you want to do it. I'd put Morgan Knowles in there, but not this particular instant, because this particular instant was just a brain fart, wasn't it? But in the general scheme of players banned, and I don't think that it's rugby intelligence or ignorance that is leading to the repeated bans. I think it's just pressure of situation, and then now that we've lost a few, almost trying too hard to make an impact.
But is it not a professional game, and we should be not doing this now?
Just on something that Ed said there, if I was Wellens this week, I'd be talking to these lads a lot about Myler, because you slightest touch on Myler on Friday night, and he's going down like he's been killed, which he did at our ground, and he will do it again. Without doubt, he'll do it again. So he needs to be saying to if he kicks it on that last, do not even touch him, because he's going to go down like he's been shot. You need to plan for it, don't they? They need to plan for these guys. That's what's coming into the game.
If it's by design, as you were saying, and we've got certain guys in our team who are, to use your term, enforcers, shouldn't somebody like in the coaching staff be saying, well, actually, these guys aren't very good at this anymore, let's
Let's
change
use
it up.
somebody else.
Let's use somebody else.
I don't know, but have we got, as an opposition player, when you look at, if all of a sudden somebody says, right, Batch, you're doing the enforcer's job and you're lining up against Batch like that, thank God it's not Morgan Knowles coming at me, right, Batch, I'm having you as much as you're having me, kind of thing. But if I may, I want the Morgan Knowles incident from the Halifax game. I've been, since he came into our team, one of his biggest fans, a big fan of Morgan Knowles, but in this season, and I think probably last season, half of last season at least anyway, he's been putting too much emphasis on putting a big hit in, putting a big shot on.
I think Lees is the same.
Yeah, and I think Lees has reeled
just make a
in
tackle,
a little
not
bit.
to kill anyone. Just
Yeah.
make a tackle.
But I think Morgan Knowles has got so much more to offer. He's not a loose forward as we used to love. Scully, Faz, because they don't exist. He's not one of them. Never will be. I don't think there's one of them in the game.
Closest one is Cameron Smith, I think, at least.
Yeah, that's a fair call. But Morgan Knowles isn't like that. But he is something a bit different than anything else we've got. And when he's playing his game right, and he's the first one to admit he's not no super skilled, superstar, creative. He just does as he's asked to do and plays his game.
He's bumped up that way by the fans. To hear the fans talk about him, you think he was a Sculthorpe, and he's just. That's one of the reasons why I can't get my head around him, because he's not in that class.
No, but he never claims to be the lad himself. He never claims
it's
to
the
be.
fans doing the
But what disappoints
bumping
me,
up.
What disappoints
How old
me,
are them
Steve?
fans?
Well, all ages. It's just perceived.
But if they lived in
that,
if they lived in that era, then they must be losing it.
Yeah, but it's that I just think that he's gone more towards this almost intentional shithousery, if you like, pushing them boundaries right the way back. And I do think that the Friday incident was, I have absolutely no idea. That is just a brain fart. I think his previous suspensions that he's had have just been grubbery and a bit of shithouse. And
I think that's what he is. He's a grub.
Well, yeah.
And we don't accept it because he plays for us. He's a grub.
He absolutely is. Well, he's got that in him.
If you support another team, you're thinking Morgan Knowles is a grub. You view in the same way that we view Morgan Smithies or
No way.
Yeah, but
I'm not having that.
But people of other teams view Jack Wellesby as a dirty cheat. People in other teams despise our players.
Yeah, of course they do.
Of course they do.
That's what I'm saying. Other fans of other teams see that, and they don't see those players in the way that the Saints fans do.
I think Morgan,
blind loyalty to our players.
Morgan's definitely changed in the last two seasons. When he first came into the team, he wasn't quite the sort of the classic loose forward, but he was loose forward material. He did have a pass on him. He did have a change of pace and a step, and he's changed over the last 2-3 seasons into just a big.
He's more like a
big
prop
hitter.
now.
He's more like a prop.
Yeah.
He's still there though, and we still need him.
It's
time for the manager,
yeah,
to sort the coach, whatever you want to call him, to sort it out, and say, look, we need. Inu is a great player. He's a player that could play in Australia.
Do you think he can do that?
I do. Yeah.
It's a big ask for a first-year coach to get a grip. Maybe that's part of the problem.
He needs to. He needs to sit him down and say, look, it's going wrong, isn't it? What are we going to do to put it right? Because we need to put it right, and we need to put it right from as soon as you're back.
Even Smithies has calmed down.
I was going to say then that when the likes of Smithies and Partington and these came through, and various other clubs, for a spell, all we had was Matty Lees of any aggression. And when we used to sit in that studio at WA12 Radio, when we used to say that our team has got everything but we're pansies. We could be bullied. That when it came down to a scrap,
A big game it happened, didn't it?
And if it came down to a scrap, we were a bunch of fannies and people knew how to beat us. Now, Matty Lees came through with his aggression, then he got that shocking injury that put him out. When Brett Ferris, and I don't think there's anything wrong with Brett Ferris's tackle, it was just unlucky.
But again, his reputation.
But we had it there, didn't we?
It did. But then
Lees,
he came.
Knowles,
And
Bentley.
But and then James Bentley went, but we never, for so long, we never had that aggression. And Morgan Knowles has almost stepped up too far with the aggression. But I think it's his decisions and it's that I think where he needs his training from his coaches, and he just needs to get that. Choose his moment, because the Halifax one was just 20 seconds left.
Madness.
Game 1, to go in like he was there. If he'd have done that in the first 10 minutes, you can maybe think, well, he's been out for 5 weeks. He's 10 minutes into his comeback game.
Were you hyped up to start the game, maybe?
Yeah. But to do it after you've done 80 minutes...
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
I mean, that is insanity, but I would hate... I mean, I've seen a lot on social media, people call, let's get rid of him. I would cringe if we let him go.
No, I mean, that's the social media era for him. He's either... it's not his fault, it's somebody else's fault, or he's the devil incarnate, isn't it? It's chalk and cheese. But he has got now, he's got himself this reputation. So any tackle that he's involved in, is the referee going to be looking at it very carefully?
But him and the coach can fix it.
I'm sure they can.
Do you know what's a good example of somebody who did fix it? John Bateman. John Bateman was like that for years when he was younger. He fixed it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it can be fixed, like you say, with the coaches and the right mindset.
Yeah.
But I'd hate to see Morgan.
Somebody
Knowles
offered me the
anywhere else.
example of Adrian Morley, but again, I don't think he's in that class at all.
I've seen examples comparing Morley, Burgess, but as much as I love Morgan Knowles, he is not in the same stratosphere as Adrian Morley, Sam Burgess. They are like generational players. I mean, Moz. While we're talking of him, Moz would be my favourite forward ever in Super League. If you could have one forward from the start of his career again, it'd be Moz for me. But he had so much more.
Are we not counting hookers? Because if we are, I think Kieran Cunningham.
I'll give you that, Steve.
Thank you.
All right,
I'd agree with you there, Steve.
You should have said no. We're not counting hookers.
No, we're not
Talking about
counting
props
hookers.
and back rows.
But then you'd say, hookers are not forwards, then, are they?
Well, these days they're like half-backs, aren't they?
we can say whatever we say, and you'll hear people say the game's gone soft until the cows come home these days. But the game has changed, and there's litigation in the background about people getting injured and having knock-on effects. And that's to be decided what comes out of that. I'm not sure what will come out of that, but I think the administrators of the game have had to take a view, and they've had to do this, and we've got to adapt, like you say, Steve. I think a lot of it is stupidity.
Because maybe if those ex-players win their case, maybe the game can't afford that. It's not like the NFL where you can pay $1 billion out and absorb that.
No.
That happens to rugby league, it's dead and buried.
Yeah, the game's over, isn't it? It's everybody off to Australia.
A lot of these band guys are guys coming up from Australia. Dylan Napper, he couldn't play without getting sent off, and
that's quite not here anymore.
That's what
shipped
I mean.
him out.
But I think I'm reading Facebook and I just cringe. Morgan out, Wellens out. It's just like ridiculous.
Oh, it's nonsense, isn't it?
You know what I mean?
Nonsense.
If you felt that Morgan was a lost cause, then so be it. But he's far from that.
At what point does he become a lost cause?
Even for you,
quite a few more bands to me, and I think he's again, and another big one of my favourite hobby horses is it's May, so we just need to get him tuned in now and let's go forward. We're getting some players back, and we need him, so we shouldn't shoot him. But Welland's got to manage it. It's all about management.
But but once they cross the white line, it's the leaders on the pitch. As we come back to the original points being made about leadership, who's in charge on the pitch and who's calming people down and keeping them focused and keeping the composure. I think from a personal point of view, the only time we lose big games is when we lose our composure.
But you know something, Graham? It's not like, I don't know about you, men, but for me, when you watch a Saints game, it's not like you see it building towards somebody doing something stupid. It's not like it's been a nasty game or a petulant game or there's been a number of cheap shots. It's not. It's just a normal game, and then all of a sudden, and everybody in the crowd, you get a collective groan, and everybody going, "Oh my God, what have you done that for?"
But that's the key point, isn't it? It doesn't need to be cheap or nasty now to get a ban, and that's what the players aren't thinking about.
Yeah.
And I can't disagree with your point there, Steve, about Batchelor. Batchelor doesn't do it. And he's a great case example. Another one that doesn't do it, who never stops working, is James Bell.
Yeah.
He doesn't get it, and James Bell bangs hard anything that he needs to, and he doesn't get suspensions and he doesn't get yellow cards. And I'll tell you what, with Morgan and various others disciplinary, thank God for James Bell this season, because he's plugged some gaps for us this year, that lad.
He's been very good, and he's come up with some key tries as well. But it comes back to, have we made this rod for our own back? Are we getting the blunt end of the discipline because we are pushing that envelope too far?
I don't think we're getting the blunt end of it, Graham, because I think a number of them, one or two have been questionable, but a number of them are like justified bans. I mean, once you take your blinkers off when you sat in the stadium and you look at it properly, they're justifiable yellow cards, they're justifiable bans, and I think this time with Morgan's 2 matches, I think he's got away lightly with that, to be honest.
I think the issue is a lot of people don't agree with the rules, but those are the rules. We've got to adapt to that, and we're not doing that at the moment.
And then the big issue with everything with officialdom in our game and with the panel is a consistency, because I do know in a lot of games that I've seen where we're involved, there have been just as bad hits on Johnny every game and other players occasionally that don't even get a penalty. And there's a certainly consistency element, which I'm thinking that we've potentially caused a bit of a problem for ourselves in that we're getting looked at harder.
Well, there's 2 incidences of Matty Lee's where after both time he's been sin-binned, 2 or 3 days after they've gone, oh no, we got that wrong, which has cost us. The Lee one,
What would cost us the game?
In fairness, the Lee one, the few days later they were like, no, that was a mistake. And then the Hull KR one was the same thing. Lee's got 10 minutes, and in hindsight, they went,
lost the point.
oh yeah, that was a mistake. So they are looking at us because, and maybe they're looking at these guys. They're looking at Knowles, Siddon, and Matt Altier, Lees.
Well, I think we've got a name for ourselves that has been unfortunate, that's caused us, and is causing and will continue to cause us problems, unless somebody sits down and sorts it out.
And there is also a slight, like Gaz said before about Myler on Friday, there is also a side of it that players are milking, and we've got Wellesby's one. Wellesby will milk anything he can. If Wellesby ask his missus stop the car so he can go pull a cow's tit if he had to, you know what I mean? He'd milk anything he can, Wellesby. Coote did it in his last season with us. Coote, anybody touched Coote anywhere above the elbow when he was rolling round holding his head, and so we're guilty of that as much as anybody.
You get this with professionalism.
Yeah.
It's high stakes.
But so, like as you said, Steve, when the rules change towards this direction, then it's opening the door that... I mean, you think Johnny Lomax there, we all know that the vast majority of tries Saints score. You looking back play, Johnny Lomax is flat on the floor. But he gets up. His integrity is superb. You cannot question that lad's integrity every time he gets up. And there's other players of other teams that you see who will get smashed to bits, and if they're not hurt, they'll bounce straight back up. But then you get your Milers of this world. And we've now created such a grey area for ourselves. But I don't think that helps either. So if you're, like I said before, if you're Harry Smith and you're about to put a kick up and you see Matty Lees coming at you, you think to yourself, right, I'm going to boot this, I'm going to steal myself, and as soon as he hits me, I'm gone. Richie Myler is a master at it. It used to be him who was that git at Catalan, him that Gigot.
Tony
Zigo.
Gigot.
Graham's favourite player.
I think he brought cheating to a new level in rugby league and play acting. But I do think they're manipulating the rules.
He took it too far. He became a buffoon, didn't he?
Is he in Union now?
God knows where he is.
Avoiding hits in Union.
The Actors Union.
All right, so we don't think it's a conspiracy against us. We think it's our own fault, and we need to adapt.
I think, to generalise it, I think it's something we need to fix ourselves rather than the rugby league world is against us.
Yeah,
and we've got time.
Yeah, totally agree. What my reservation is: are we going to do it? Can we do it? Because It's not just this year with Altier and Sirenin and Knowles. It's been going on for, like you said before, Graham, a year or two now, and it's not really getting through. So that's brilliant.
I'd like. I know we've got to move on, Graham. I'd like. Well, as you said to Gaz about where do you draw the line with more for Sirenin and Metaltier, I think if they carry on and they don't behave, then you don't give them another deal. You send them back to Australia.
I think Metaltier is going to go anywhere.
I think with Morgan Knowles, because of what he could be for us. But what's your? Because I know you have different opinions to some of. What's your thoughts on Morgan Knowles and where do you?
My view's a bit out there, but I'm happy with Bell. If he goes, he goes. I'm not worried. I'm happy with Bell. Yeah. Play Bell. Bell, like you said before, Bell will play clean game. He's got other qualities that Knowles doesn't have in terms of ball handling skills and that kind of thing, and he can do a defensive job. He might not be like do the ugly stuff that you see Knowles do, chasing down kickers and whatnot, but he can, like you say, he's tough enough to defend properly. All you've got to do is tackle. You don't have to kill anyone.
Nah.
It's a fair point.
Greats off the bench. For me, not big enough to start if everybody's fit.
So a proper Morgan Knowles is what we need.
Yeah, if everybody's fit, Bell starts on bench. And in fact, last season he didn't start on bench, did he? Most games.
Well, he didn't get a lot of games last season.
That's what I mean. And he has played. No, I'm not having a go at Bell. I think Bell's great. He's got fantastic hands. But when them big packs come and it's big pack v big pack, that's what's cost us lately. It's been big pack v not so big pack because people are injured.
I think though, even if you keep in Knowles, then I still think Bell gets in 17.
I wouldn't argue with that.
I still think he's in the team.
Sorry, say again.
Because he's so versatile. He can play loads of different places, but I don't think he starts.
Is the space for both in the 13? Remember when we all laughed at Sean Wayne when he put Morgan Knowles at prop, and Morgan Knowles played at prop for England, and we was all like, oh God, he played well, didn't he? He's good at prop, isn't he?
But if he plays prop, which I think might be his best position actually, then you're going to go without either one of Walmsley or Lees from the start. That's tricky.
Yeah.
And second row, you can put Bell in second row, but you've got Metaltier and Sirenin, and Batchelor.
And Batchelor,
so you're strong there as well. So I'm not sure you would play them both at the same time.
What a lovely problem. This is what we need back. We need this problem back.
We won't have this problem with more.
That's what I mean. We need this problem back. We need Delaney in the mix as well. That's where we was last 3 or 4 years. Great lads aren't even making the 17. We're not there at the minute.
That's where you've got that top squad. But
yeah.
if
we've still got all them players, we just need them
3 or
fit
4 banned. We've got well, Knowles and Lees are out for Friday, aren't they, for a start?
That's what I mean. We need them not banned and we need them fit. But if we have them, if they're all fit and not banned, what a squad of forwards.
If there's any game as obscene as this sounds, if there's any game where it may be a blessing that Morgan Knowles and Matty Lees aren't playing, it's Leeds away when it comes to the discipline side of the game. Because if there's any team that's going to get you to play a red carded, it's Leeds at Headingley.
Bentley.
Yeah, but
Myler.
Yeah, so if there's anywhere you're going to get in trouble, it's in front of the south stand at Headingley.
The bad news is Sirenn's back.
Well, that might be a good point to move on. What's up next? Leeds away Friday night. What do we think?
I'll tell you,
we owe them one.
Well, we do.
But they're like us. They're very inconsistent. It's a bit of a coin toss, isn't it?
Yeah.
Have you really just put them in the same comments as us?
I mean, like this year, this
year?
season they are.
Yeah.
Well,
we're on the same points as them. We got a game in hand, but both teams have been like win one, lose one, haven't they? About most of the season.
Horrible club.
And you look at Leeds against the 2 games against Wigan they played this last couple of weeks. One of them they blew them away with 12 men, and the other one they threw away with a dodgy decision by our mate Harry Newman. So they're like Jekyll and Hyde, aren't they? Like us.
It's tricky.
Is Hurrell fit? You know what I mean? I think Hurrell, you can't underestimate the value of Hurrell. It's massive. And when he's not playing, Davis is no substitute for Hurrell. Nowhere near.
Well, neither Davis nor Hopewati would be playing.
And Hopewati's no substitute for the massive losses.
Yeah.
Well, our centres are massive.
Newman coming down the other centre. Pretty scary.
Just make him pass it and he won't do it, will he?
What's that?
Just make him pass it and he won't do it.
Don't like passing. Even that try he scored at Saints, he went past 7 players. He won't pass the ball. But he did score, that's why.
Blake Austin was missing last the Wigan game, wasn't he?
I think that was critical because when they beat Wigan with 12 men, Blake Austin
was
one
tremendous.
of the best times I've ever seen him play.
I've always been a Blake Austin fan, Gaz, you know this. I've always been a fan of him, and I do think he's got the greatest bomb that I've ever seen in rugby league.
Is he going to be fit?
I don't know.
He could be key, couldn't he?
Do we go there with confidence, or do we go there? Think I'll risk one eye on this.
I want to see each squad. I think it's down.
It's down to what have we got?
Players. Yeah, it's down to players. If we had all of our players, we beat Leeds, no problem.
But I think if you look at the players we've had missing recently, with no Percival, no Hurrell,
Percival's
no Parsi, no.
With Percival, it's always this mystery in it. Nobody knows what's up with him and when's he coming back.
Do you know
like
what?
normal people get injured, and it's like he's out for 3 weeks, he's out for 4 weeks. But when it's Percival, it's like no one knows where it is, and it's always way longer than you think it's going to be. Like,
That's certainly true.
Yeah.
4 weeks is usually 8 with Percival.
What's he out with right now? I don't know.
I think it's a hamstring, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think Mark Percival is in that horrible position of he's done so much mileage at such a young age, and he's such a finely tuned athlete that when something twangs, it twangs in spectacular
And the
fashion.
way we play, we use our backs as battering rams.
We've got to
more
stop.
than anybody else does.
Percy said when we was talking with him at that down at Saints the other week, it was the week after he'd played second row at Hull KR.
Exactly.
And that the idea of Mark Percival playing second row, honestly, it makes my arse wink. It really does.
It's like playing.
That's like
playing Messi at
the imagery, Eddie.
Exactly what it's a new injury, isn't it?
Mark Percival at second row. But then you see, we have got all these, but another thing that's been bugging me, and there's obviously, I'm not a coach, I'm just a fan on the terraces, like all of us are, but John Bennison sometimes doesn't get in that team, and Lewis Dodd does. We had Jack Wellesby and Johnny Lomax in the halves last year that took us to amazing heights, and Lewis Dodd gets in that team every time. And there's obviously things on the training ground. We're just fans, we only see 80 minutes a week, that's all we see. But I, for one, that irritates me, it irks me. I'm never going to question the coaching staff because they're with them every day, but I think for all like the suspensions and the bans and this, that and the other, we haven't got that dynamism.
I'm still not sure whether the way he's playing, Dodd, is down to him or if it's coaching. Because we said before that we are playing conservatively even against lower league teams. Is he being restricted by the tactics?
If you're naturally that creative, which he was, and you're that good. If I was like the Dodd from that was playing
pre-injury,
pre-Good Friday last year, when he was absolutely sensational until he got injured pre-Good Friday last year, and I was being told to play conservative, I wouldn't.
Do you remember that?
I'm that good, I'm not doing it.
Remember that comment?
I'll go and play for somebody else. You're not doing that.
That's what he has.
That might be what he said.
Well, maybe if that's the root cause of what's going on, then I struggle to argue with that. But I can't believe there's a genius in there who right now is playing like a poor man's Theo Farge.
Do you remember when Wolfie said that, when the team has got to earn the right to attack? But
we were doing that, weren't we? And
but for Lewis Dodd is the fact that we have had so many missing through injury and suspension that to let Lewis Dodd do that maverick thing that he does, your other 12 then have to become 13 in defence. And with the personnel situations we've had this season, we haven't had 12 that have been capable of becoming 13 at the level that we do. So I'm trying to think of reasons for Dodd being the way he is, because there is no, and we watched him when he was in the academy, Graham, and there is no doubt he is lights out brilliant when, I don't know if it's when he wants to be or when he's allowed to be.
Could it be the injury still bothering him?
The injury might be part of
the Luke Walsh factor, because I know Walsh's was
either physically or mentally.
Well, that Achilles tendon is a bad one, isn't it? I think he's just done it again, Regan. Just before he was due to start, he was running, he was back in training, he still had never played for them, and then bang, the Achilles tendon.
Same one.
Yeah.
See, Luke Walsh was never the same. He had 8 games of looking like the greatest player we've ever seen in a Saints shirt. Got that badly broken leg, and he was never the same. When Johnny came back from his last knee reconstruction, it took him half a season. Every time he went into a challenge, he was almost curling up into a ball.
I remember people writing him off years ago.
Yeah.
Like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
People were saying he wasn't going to come back. He's had too many knee injuries. But look at him now.
And when you think...
Last 4 or 5 years.
When he made that comeback game against Leeds, we all remember, and he scored that amazing try, and the whole stadium went bananas for him. But even in that period, whenever he got tackled, he was like, you could see him almost cringing on the floor, like waiting to be hurt. Whereas now, like you say, he's developed into what he is. But maybe there is that.
It's a bad
Luke Walsh
injury.
was never the same.
Well, he got it, didn't he? Joe Cater at Hull, he did his Achilles, he came back, and he came back, it went again. So it is I think there is a risk of that thing going again. Newlove's went, he was never the same after.
That's true.
You know, it's a real bad one.
Well, Achilles and hamstrings for players with pace is a real problem.
So I don't know, hopefully it's not that, but right now...
The Percival thing you made, that was a great point, that, Gaz. That about Percival and his injuries is a great...
It's always like a mystery, isn't it? Nobody will say what's up with him. And when he's coming back, he's like, don't talk about Percival.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to get a full season.
The tumbleweed in the press conference goes on.
We don't discuss Mark Percival. Ask me about Connie.
You won't get a full season out of him now.
I agree.
The rest of his career, you won't get a full season out of him.
We haven't had one for about 4 years, but when he's there, he's magic. But that's why I think we need a centre, which is why I was banging on about Jake Wardle for 2 years, and we missed that boat.
We should have done everything we could to get that one.
Yeah, and any chances to get Harry Newman, I can't believe that's even remotely true. But if there was any chance to get him, we should do whatever.
Shouldn't even try and go and get him. That pie to
Gildart.
Yeah.
I was the other week. I was saying we need somebody like that.
We need a centre.
We need that.
Who's top drawer? Gildart, he's not Australia good.
Well,
but he's Super League good.
There's an argument we need 2.
There is an argument we need 2, but we certainly need 1, and they're out there, and we keep missing the boat at the minute.
Opper's let us down, hasn't he? Well, no, that's wrong. Maybe he's been unlucky with injuries, but
Me and you've got more pace than him.
Opper's got the number 3 on his back, and we've ended up with a tubby Leeds cast-off coming to us. Who was turned... No, well, let's be honest.
Yeah.
When he came to us, he was a tubby Leeds cast-off. He was nothing more. And he's come to
He
us...
certainly
and
wasn't an 80-minute player, was he?
No,
he
and
blew
he's
out after about half an hour.
Yeah, and he's ripped the place up since he's come to Saints.
He certainly surprised me, yeah.
He has been priceless for us in these last season and a
I
half.
think that's down to absolutely atrocious management at Leeds and shocking culture. And we've not got that culture. Our guys train hard.
Well, it's like now when you go on about Leeds there with this, like Sam Walters, apparently Leeds had put a huge amount of money on the table for Sam Walters, and Sam Walters just turned around and said, I don't want to be at the club.
He's going Wigan, isn't he?
I don't know where
That's
he's
what
going.
he's been linked with. He's another one we
but
should go
Leeds
and
have
get.
offered him a small fortune, and he's actually come out and said, I don't want to be at the club. End of script.
Is he from Leeds? Surely he's not from your Leeds area.
No idea.
No. Be interesting if he is or he isn't.
So I can't feel the confidence wafting over me for Friday at the moment then, lads. No.
No, I think it's
It's in the balance, isn't it?
50-50 for me.
And the dilemma is the one we've discussed a few times is, and I know he won't do it, the Dodd thing is such a strange one, isn't it? Because you feel like there's part of me says, play Benison at full back, play Johnny and Jack and stick him at stand and let him. He needs to feel a month of what's going on in your head. But if it's not that, if it's because he's got an Achilles knock or he's giving it under instruction, then it's not the kid's fault, is it?
No. I mean, there is. I begin to wonder whether his dip in form is not actually a dip in form, and he's just playing to a structured formula.
Structured formula, or that's as much as his Achilles will let him do right now.
I think
He's got a bit like you said earlier with Johnny. He's still afraid.
I think there's information maybe coming our way that Sam Walters is a witness lad.
No.
So maybe he wants to come and join the rest of his Alton Hornets teammates at the Saints. Maybe.
I was going to say he's not angling for a move to his hometown club, is he?
Because let's be honest, most
the deal is he now owns it.
He sold it for a fiver.
Yeah. All right, so
but he'd be a great signing for us because he was that night when he came on. I know he made a massive difference, and had it not been for Chris Kendall, we'd have won that game. But
he's a big unit, though, isn't he?
He is a massive unit. Yeah. Now whether he's he might suit our career. Straight in and knock somebody out.
All right, so we're 50-50 with Leeds. After that, we've got Huddersfield Giants at Magic Weekend. They are in a dire
and
slump.
that
of
I am a
form.
bit more confident about.
I'm a bit
They
more confident
are
about
shipping points left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
They got nilled. I think it was by OKR.
Yep.
And then they got beat really badly the week after by somebody equally underwhelming. And then they
Lee hammered them, didn't they?
Lee it was, yeah. And then this week in the cup they've lost by 2 points, which looks okay on
But
the
they've
face
shipped-
of it.
they've
But
still
at
shipped
one
in
point they
80.
were 24-0 down, weren't they? So
Yep, they still shipped in
they
42.
are in a serious mess. And you look at the talent they've got,
Yeah.
they shouldn't be anywhere near where they are. They should be a lot better than they are.
I think
So,
Ken Davies said he's never spent as much money as he has in the last 18 months.
I bet he hasn't.
So
I think there's pressure on Watson. I think if they don't improve, pressure on Watson for
They've
me.
got a hell of a squad there.
Yeah.
And some great play. Will Price is a fantastic player.
Well, he's off to Australia, isn't he?
I know where you're going,
Yeah.
and he probably will. Hopefully, he's good enough. But,
Watson has let me down big style. I know. I think like stay outside of me here. I don't know. I've always been such a big fan of Watson.
I think he's got the wrong process.
I've been so disappointed with him there with not just the first team got, but the production line of talent that Huddersfield have got. They have got a conveyor belt of talent that comes through, and he went from working wonders at Salford, and let's be honest, he's been a bit of a basket case at Huddersfield. And then, as a side, did any of you see the Paul Clough calling Chris Hill out?
No, what was this?
HIA. He said they got 23 minutes into the match. Chris Hill was due to come off on 25 minutes, and in the 23rd minute, he's gone down with a head injury, and Paul Cook, and he said, when you watch the replay, he didn't even get touched round his head, but he's then gone off with a HIA, and he said it's nothing but cheating, and then it's what we've been saying for years.
This is what fans have been saying about Chris Hill for a long time, and I thought it was just like an exaggerated joke, but it turns out there is some kind of truth in that.
Yeah,
and it's gone off again there. But
it did start at Warrington. I don't think that's something that Ian Watson invented.
No, this is true. This is true.
Yeah.
But I think Huddersfield at Magic, we should be looking at, like you say, flip of a coin for Leeds, but then going into Magic weekend, we should be looking at that as a target to put on a show and give somebody a bloody good hiding.
Well, hopefully we'll have a few bodies back. Although it depends. It depends where we are.
We've got a game to get
after
through
Tuesday night. Yeah,
we've got a game to get through on Friday night against Leeds.
Mileage.
Without any more bans.
and as if that's not as much of a concern, the week after we've got the return of Wigan at home, which is
Wigan away.
We could have won that game.
If we didn't drop the ball and a few finishes, we win that game. I'm not. They don't, as was it Shania Twain. They don't impress me much. Wigan. They don't. They got done by a massively understrength Catalan at home. They nearly got done by a massively understrength Saints. If we can get anywhere near, let's hope Connie's back. I think the Wigan match depends on who's on the pitch. But if we can get enough on the pitch, then we can beat them.
This comes back that Good Friday match.
Leeds would have beaten them on Saturday if Harry Newman had passed the ball.
Yeah.
That Good Friday match came down to our discipline, and I'm not talking about our discipline as in cards. Our discipline is in keeping hold of the damn ball and defensive discipline. I mean, they only had, when you mentioned about us at Catalan, they only had 2 chances and scored them both, where we opened them up repeatedly. We repeatedly opened them up. But they like you say, I had no idea. Flip of a coin again for me, that Wigan match. Absolute flip of a coin. It depends which Saints turn up.
Yeah. Like you think about the Wigan and
it's not about them.
The name and being like very fearsome and that. But I think this current side are, especially without Jay Field, I think they're very vulnerable, and they've shown that in their 2 games against Leeds in the last couple of weeks.
Second half against Leeds the other week was shocking.
They're not as aggressive as they used to be because they haven't got the coach that they used to have.
Correct.
The current coach has got a brain and is a reasonable bloke, where the old coach was unreasonable.
I think reading it, as using us as an analogy, if it was the old Wigan, they'd have less players than we have.
Yeah,
they'd be playing the reserves every week.
Well, he probably can't coach.
Do you know what else they haven't got?
Yeah.
Do you know what else they haven't got? A leader.
Yeah, they haven't.
They haven't got a leader. They've got a captain, but they haven't got a leader. So like that match when Leeds went down to 12 men, and it was like the momentum, as they say, and it was building and they were going back to back, and there was nobody there to say, well, hold on a minute, come on lads, let's take stock here now. They haven't got it.
Since O'Loughlin went.
Yeah, so they're lacking that.
I don't even know who is their captain.
Is it Farrell?
Liam Farrell's like,
Yeah, he doesn't speak.
He doesn't speak, does he? No.
Great as he is, again, great player, but
he is a great player.
Yeah, but I don't think he's that leader they need. But at the minute, it's more about us than Wigan that game.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the games are all about us and who we've got, which bodies we've got available, aren't they?
It is all about us. It is all about us because we're better than them all if we can get our first team up pitch.
We don't need. This is the thing that frustrates me, guys. We don't necessarily need our first team on pitch. We just need the ones that are on the pitch to frigging behave themselves.
Well, we do, but we do need.
That's the starting point. That's the start.
You know, if we're running with.
We battered Warrington.
Yeah, we did.
3 or 4 weeks ago. Absolutely destroyed Warrington.
Even that 15-minute spell against Salford was amazing.
Yeah. I think they came complacent.
I think we just behaved ourselves. We
was good.
We was. We even said at that Warrington game, oh, look, no penalty. Wow, look at this. We're not giving penalty after penalty. Stupid penalty. Gobbing off Chopsy all the time. Do you know what I mean? But that is where it's got to start.
It has.
Up here.
Yeah, it has.
But is that more difficult within a derby environment? Because they will be trying to, wind us up and get us into a scrap rather than a game, won't they? That's what they do.
Yeah, I
We'll
think...
be all right, Steve Morgan's back.
Marvellous. You say that, Gaz. He's got a 2-game ban, so he's going to miss Leeds and then he's going to miss Magic.
Huddersfield,
that's his first game back, isn't it?
Yeah.
God help us.
Wigan at home, his first game back.
Let's hope he leaves it to the 80th minute again.
Yeah.
Tuned him for a highly disciplined performance against Wigan.
He'll not last 25 minutes, will he?
Morgan Smithies will go through stand. And we'll have like that. Yeah, it's always gone off.
With a bit of luck, we'll both be down to 12 with them if them two get into a ruckus.
Morgan
it's a matter of which Morgan will be off first, isn't it, really?
Yeah, they'll go to Betfred for that. There'll be odds on that.
I think that one of the little subplots to that, I think Morgan Smith is terrified of Morgan Knowles. I think he's petrified of him.
I think he's a flat track bully, Morgan Smithies.
Yeah.
Morgan Knowles a real deal.
And that's where I think but our Morgan has gone that little bit too far with. He's stepped into that breach that we needed somebody to step into. But he's too far beyond at the minute. But I think Smithies, and then there's that other gonad that they had, was it Partington when he was there?
Yeah, he's gone.
And I think between Matty Lees and Morgan Knowles, they've upped their levels, and I think
he should have been sent off too. Partington against Saints when he played for Salford last week. He threw a punch at James Bell
on the floor.
And he missed him completely, but the intent was there.
Yeah.
So he should have been off, I thought.
That frustrated the life out of me. That sort of stuff, the video ref should be coming in and saying,
it wasn't even looked at, was it?
You need to see this.
And I watched the TV coverage when I got home. It wasn't even mentioned.
Yeah. Bizarre. Yeah.
But then there's incidences like that. There was that going back again, that Piers Paul did to Darryl Clark.
That was appalling.
Yeah.
That was so grubby.
Nothing was even said about it.
Yeah.
I mean, unbelievable. I mean...
Well, the lad, Clark, had a groin injury, didn't he?
He did.
So it was a deliberate attempt to aggravate that injury.
Yeah, absolutely 100%.
They've lost 2 players long term today, though. Piers Paul's out for about 6-8 weeks.
Right.
I saw earlier. And who was the other one? The other one's out for about 6 weeks as well.
I don't really get him, that guy, Piers Paul, to be honest.
He's off to Newcastle Knights as well, isn't he?
Yeah, I believe so, but I can't get my head around why they would
he's to me, he's neither a
highly.
centre nor a second row. He's somewhere in the middle.
I can't remember who the other one was, but the other one's important as well.
And he was in the England squad, but that I thought was down to who the coach is.
Well, exactly.
So I just don't get him at all.
So we're looking,
maybe he'll prove me wrong at some point when he goes to Newcastle and starts ripping up trees, maybe. But at the moment, I don't see it.
I think he'll be back a year later.
Who else is out apart from Piers Paul?
I can't remember, but it's Piers Paul, and there is another one, and I'm trying to think who it is. And
the key for them is whether they've got Jay Field back or not.
Absolutely.
If he's back, they're a different proposition.
They've only got 2 options. If they've got him back, they're fine. Otherwise, it's getting Bevan French in space.
When you've got those 2 in tandem, the 2 speedsters who are world-class talents, if they're playing together, that is a different Wigan side.
It's trouble. Yeah. Okay. All right. So Wigan largely depends on who we've got available. I think.
Yeah, we need to find that.
And if we play properly,
I'm going for us. And while we're on it, I'm going for us at Leeds as well.
Okay. Let's see a bit of confidence. And then
I've never known Gaz to back against Saints.
Never. Me neither.
Next time will be first time.
Mark Lawrenson's BBC predictions with Liverpool, isn't it?
Liverpool win 4-0.
Next time will be the first time.
Well, towards the end of the month, then we've got we did have Hull away, which was switched to the Thursday night, which is bizarre to me. And then, but week before that, now we've got them in the cup. So we've got 2 games against Hull at the end of the month before we come back for our next podcast.
I watched Hull, and
they comfortably beat
Jake
Castleford,
Clifford.
didn't
That Jake Clifford, Jake
Classic.
Truman thing is a bit scary because he's quality.
And with Tex Hoy at fullback.
they? Fullback's okay as well, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, Texor, yeah. But that Jake Clifford's a proper good organising 7, and he played superb at Cast, didn't he?
They got a decent winger with a hat-trick as well.
I
haven't
think it's a very tough draw, that, especially
Yeah.
away from home, because I think Tony Smith's also a factor. He's doing what Tony Smith does, which is
Yep.
make players better and teams better.
Yep.
I think he's the best coach in the league at the minute, Tony Smith, and I'm not surprised to see him improved dramatically from where they were even 3-4 weeks ago.
He's very pragmatic in it because he took some pastings and he took a light pasting against KR.
Yeah.
And he just takes it, doesn't he? And I think it's his age and his experience.
Yeah.
He doesn't. It
He's
doesn't
got the
fluster him.
kudos to walk over that, hasn't
Well,
he?
he had that spot on that, Graham, because when he first went to Warrington were toilet, weren't they?
Yeah.
And he turned Warrington from toilet into a force.
Contenders, yeah.
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 Won the cup twice. They won
Twice
the
won
cup.
the cup, yeah.
So, and let's be honest, all that came down to Tony Smith, the rejuvenation of Warrington. He went to OKR and was getting pounded week after week for a spell, and he's transformed OKR.
You remember the COVID season when there was shortened?
Yeah.
OKR finished 11th.
Yeah.
Year
For them
after,
as well.
they were in the semi-finals.
Yeah.
True that, yeah.
For him as well, it's been getting players on the field. Now he's got Jake Clifford playing.
Yeah.
You're seeing how good this guy
course, yeah.
actually is.
He's a good kicker as well.
And Truman hasn't played. He's only just come into the team.
He looks a bit different
And
as
I think
well.
like Gaz said as well, he's so pragmatic, he's so... You know, there's never a knee-jerk reaction from him. There's never, ever a panic. Like you said, they got absolutely mullered in that derby
And
against
he got a
OKR.
smile off him.
And there's nothing... And like you say, he doesn't get overexcited with a win. He doesn't get worried
And that
about...
must have hurt him inside because he's come from OKR, and the first time he places him with Hull, he gets absolutely mullered.
Yeah, but then he could
That
turn
must have
round...
hurt him. But he didn't show it, did he? He was cool.
Then he could turn round to Pearson and say, look, that's what I did. That's what 3
That's
years
my
of
team.
me... That's
That's
what
my
3
team.
years of me will do for your club.
And with the greatest respect, now I'm at a bigger club with bigger resources. Just give me a bit of time.
I think watching that game yesterday, wasn't it? Where
yeah.
They gave Castleford a fairly good idea for mine for you. They play with like a bit of unstructured attack as well. It's play what's in front of you and create the gaps. And they played really,
I'll tell
really
you what I
well.
would
The
say
different
about that.
proposition to what we played before. And if you remember when they played at Saints, if they could catch a ball, they'd have beat us.
Did it beat
that
us?
night.
Yeah.
That was a tough game, wasn't it? That
Yeah,
Saints
they'd have
game?
beat us.
I don't think we go there 2 weeks in a row and win twice. I think
We're going to lose one.
if you're
at
going
least.
to, which one would you pick though? We pick the cup game probably, wouldn't you? Because you know there's no coming back from a cup loss.
There is
We'd take the
there is
cup game
that.
to win.
There is that, but there is now the fact that we are getting into the sort of territory of...
We can't afford to lose many more games.
No, we
Can't
can't be
afford to
taking
lose
this...
too many more. Yeah.
We can't be taking this for granted
There's not
now.
that many points in it, you know.
There's not that many points.
You know,
but I'm still
even
of
though
the
we're
feeling,
seventh.
I am still of the feeling we need to be top 2.
Do you? Well, that's a big ask.
I'm of the feeling that we need to be... If this was the Saints team from 12 months ago, then you're like, well, do you know what? We'll finish 5 and we'll go anywhere and we'll win. But it's not the Saints team from 12 months ago.
I don't think this team is capable at the moment of getting to second now from where they are now. I don't.
Well, then would you say, like we said when we was on about the World Club Challenge, at the start of the season, you can have the World Club Challenge and you can have a Challenge Cup, but you're not going to win Super League. Yeah, give us them. Give us them.
Win Challenge-
You just sooner have the Grand Final instead of
No,
the
we'll
World
have
Club and
Challenge
the
Cup and
Challenge
we'll
Cup.
have the Grand Final. Well, and we'll come, and because I do believe if we hit September in 4th with best part of 1 to 17 on the team sheet, we'll beat them all. I refuse to accept that we're not better than them all.
I am not.
Yes, we
gonna,
are. You know, we
I am
won
not
the World
gonna-
Club Challenge against Penrith. None of them could have done that.
Guys, I'm not going to argue with you.
Yeah.
The issue is, how the hell are we going to have our 17 in September when we've had 2 months now and we can't get the 17 together?
That's the big ask.
We-
innit?
we-
And
we
the-
ju-
that,
we
for me,
just
that's
can't.
the dilemma. That's the dilemma. And if we can get them on the pitch, we get Percival, we get Hurrell, and we get most of the pack because we don't need every single one. We'll beat them.
And
But
I think the other thing with the Tony Smith team, and I think we all said this when he was at OKR, how inventive and how different OKR were under Tony Smith. Even simple things, and I know like we used to mention it, Beach used to mention it, that little things like the kick-offs. When you watch a team kick off in rugby league, you can pretty much draw a square on the pitch where that ball's going.
Yeah.
You never could with OKR. He'd go short, he'd go long, he'd go low, he'd go fast, he'd go... It was everything. It was every type of... You just didn't know what was coming at you. And if you put the resources he's got now and that team against a out-of-sorts Saints team, he could be pulling any sort of rabbit out of the hat against us.
I think it's a fair point that have you never really seen a Tony Smith team not play good rugby?
They're always good to watch. These teams are great. Yeah. Those Warrington teams, I mean, that year when Warrington finished top and they had the all-time record points difference in Super League and they won the Challenge Cup, and obviously they bottled it, as they do. But those Tony Smith Warrington teams were spectacular.
And his Leeds teams.
Even Tony Smith can't fix that.
No.
Not at all.
And his Leeds teams were... Yeah, so
do we want to do it, if we're not going to win, if we're going to win one of them, which one do we want to win?
Cup.
100%
for me.
Yeah.
Because we can come back from a league loss. I take your point about...
you're on about games? I thought you were
I take your point about
no.
I'm about to leave.
The whole game.
We could still come back from that and get in the top 6.
Yeah.
Well, we have got a chance of doing that with no chance if we lose a cup match.
If you think the target is top 2, then maybe we can't afford to lose that game.
I agree with Gaz in the sense that if we can get our first 17 or even our first 19 or 20 to be there ready for all September and all the playoffs, then but I don't think. How can we say?
You don't think we will because we haven't so far.
And plus the fact, you look at the ages of the players. Tommy's starting to miss little groups of matches because he's got that many injuries. And let's be honest, God forbid, if Johnny Lomax picks up an injury, we are done.
Yeah.
Because he is so good, that player. And in defence as well, he's so
We've
good.
got 7 or 8 over 30. There's going to be some change soon.
But that's why, for me, it's about winning this year. It was about, to be quite honest, for me, it was about winning last year. but now I get it.
So we see what they did in Penrith.
But then I think, no, we can do it one more time before we've got to start rebuilding. And I still think we can do it one more time, but I take your point.
It's like a car running out of petrol until we can get to the station.
Yeah.
Or we'll run out of petrol.
And
we'll need rescuing.
3 more lamp posts.
It just needs who's fit and available. And I do take his point that, it's all right me saying if we're all fit in September we'll do this and that, but we might. But you know what? If we're not, then we won't. It's just like that.
So it suddenly turned into a massive coaching headache this season, hasn't it?
Yeah, and one thing we absolutely
squad
have
management
to do is stand by Wellens no matter what happens.
I agree with that.
Because he's in a bit of a transitional period.
100%.
Yeah, 100%.
2 years, I think.
Yeah.
See, I think we were in transition back end of last year. We'd started. And I think we're going to have to change half a dozen first teamers in the next 12 months.
12 to 18.
We've got some
Depending on the contracts, but the age profiles.
I'm encouraged by the feedback.
Yeah, we've got a cracking pair of halfbacks in the academy. Outstanding pair of halfbacks. Outstanding.
Yeah. The Delaney, w's already effectively
he's been
come
impressive,
through,
hasn't he?
and he's already arrived.
Yeah, very impressive him.
He's a rubbish 6.
How do you know? Has he played 6?
Has he played 6? Can he play hooker?
Steve Bennison.
All right, well, let's change tack a little bit and let's have a little thought about... we've just had the World Cup over here and that final and the semis was well attended, big crowds. Great final. I thoroughly enjoyed the final. And looking forward to 2025 in France, or I was until this week. Or was it last week? And there's a letter from the French RFL saying they can't do it. A couple of little bits of investigation, really, that don't really tell us very much. These are the quotes. The French have confirmed they're unable to run the World Cup because of the withdrawal of government support and lack of confirmed funding has led to the French Rugby League having to pull out. The organisers were unable to meet financial criteria set out by the French government. Now, I don't understand how that can happen.
What's the plan B?
There isn't a plan B.
There's no plan B.
There's no plan B at the moment.
New Zealand have offered, haven't they, to host? Or it's been suggested.
The international board haven't confirmed anything yet.
You don't understand.
I don't understand how a company or a
it's not a lot
country
of money.
can
it's
be
not a lot
given
of money. 25 million.
How they can be given a World Cup and then 6 months later.
Told you it was successful, Gaz, didn't I?
I was going to say,
later.
it's okay.
Not a lot of money,
There's no fire. Gaz is paying for it. We're all right.
But as a knack, when you're losing like the UK's trillions in debt, 25 million
is nothing, is it?
Bugger all.
It's nothing.
It really is. Don't make that as a big figure. It's not. It's a tiny figure.
But
If it was Union, would it happen? Not a chance in hell.
Not a chance. Not a chance in France.
Right behind it.
But what I don't get
Don't
is that
believe in rugby league, do they?
the sheer volume of people that will come into an area, let's say in the south of France, for a World Cup competition.
Well,
how can it not make any money?
You only have to look at Perpignan when you go to the away match. You go to the away match in the centre of that town, because we take about 1,500, 2,000, whatever.
Yeah.
And because I went the first time I went, I thought, and because it's lovely Perpignan,
It is.
and you go in there and you think they must absolutely hate this, the French, because all these idiots turn up from St Helens. They've all planned on getting hammered and going to a match. And you walk into the centre of town, there's a big sign up saying "Welcome St Helens fans, welcome to Perpignan," because those weekends, those bars and whatever must make a ridiculous amount of money. So you are right that if they had Perpignan, they're in Toulouse, they're in those regions we'd spend a lot more than 25 million. You know, if all the Aussies come, the nations came.
Half the north of England would book holidays down there. So there'd be I don't know 10,000.
Just get a couple of games.
I think Gaz is it on a good thing there. When you start talking about following from the southern hemisphere, you've got more chance of the Aussies or the Kiwis thinking, come on, let's go and have a jolly to south of France, northern Spain, Barcelona, wherever they want to go.
Yep.
Then they have Wigan again, St Helens again, Hull again, Huddersfield again.
Yeah, that Perpignan, because I did it second time I went, the train from Barcelona to Perpignan's an hour and 15. So you could easily base yourself in Barcelona and all around that
fantastic rail service all over there.
Amazing rail service.
The party crews that go over there, like the guys that go out for the 3 or 4 day bender, they all base themselves in Lorette de Mar.
They do, yeah.
2 hours on a bus.
Yeah.
And they have a fleet of buses that ships them all down for the rugby and then ships them all back up to carry on.
It's an industry, that
with the party.
Catalan away match. And so it's Catalan away match exploded, but maybe it's not been presented well to the French government. I don't know, because it's not a big investment for the government to make.
The thing I listened to, and I don't know what the angle is on it, was more political posturing than financial. From the point of view that France is in the doldrums. I mean, we're in the doldrums with strikes and what have you, but people in this country have a strike and they stand at the side of a road with a placard. For France, they have a strike and they block a motorway and set fire to buildings. You know, it's a different level of anger. It's that Gallic, that almost, they're very excitable, aren't they? Now, on a local government level, what they're saying is they've got problems with, similar to what this country has regarding various political things, from jobs, wages, immigration, energy, all the rest of it, and they're just not happy about why can't they put up money to guarantee their local hospital isn't going to shut, and yet somebody from England wants them to put up money to do a competition that we don't even play. There's only 2 towns in the country playing.
How long has this been going on, though? Could
this
this have been foreseen?
It is very much rugby league, but I think it is also a victim of the current, from what I believe, this isn't an opinion, Steve, this is just what a little thing I was listening to, of the current local political climate regarding finances and attitudes, and they've got an awful lot of problems in France at the minute. But you know what the French are like? It's like, balls to the world. We don't give a toss about the world. I want my hospital open, I want my school opening, and I want this and I want that. Why aren't you doing it? And if you don't do it, I'm going to shut your motorways and I'm going to set fire to your government offices.
That's what they do, the Yellow Jacket boys.
Yeah, the yellow.
I mean, I'm only one little bit off piste here, but when they wanted to put the pensioners at 62 to 65 or 60,
mayhem.
Absolutely banging order.
Yeah,
absolutely banging order. We just let it go to 67 with a whimper.
Yeah, well, my daughter said to me the other week, when you plan retired, I said probably about 11:30 on day of my funeral.
About 75 we'll be at this rate. And if they up it to 75, we'll go, oh bloody hell. Well, France, we're setting House of Parliament on fire.
Yeah. It gets curious. I mean, I don't understand why the south of France can't organise a Rugby League World Cup, but there we go.
Was it south of France base, Graham? It would have been all over.
It would have been all over, but
big Paris game for the final, probably.
Well, they probably should have kept it down.
When you start looking at doing, it's all right doing it all over the UK. France is a bloody big country.
It's a lot bigger.
yeah.
They could have
If you
kept it-
start pulling them games, and you can do it in football. We're talking rugby league in a country that 2 towns play rugby league. So that is, again, it's just such a rugby league thing.
Full enough, football just had a World Cup in one city.
yeah.
So, it can be done either way, can't it?
Yeah.
Funny you should say that. Expressions of interest. New Zealand, fair enough. Fiji, how can they run a World Cup?
Could they not do it together?
Hang on. South Africa and Qatar.
No.
I've expressed interest.
No. What about Samoa,
South
Fiji
Africa's
and
interesting,
Tonga together?
isn't it?
Yeah.
That'd be marvellous.
South
wouldn't
Africa's
it?
very interesting.
Well, South Africa's interesting. It's done the Rugby Union World Cup several times.
So it's got the
infrastructure.
the structure in place, to do it. But
I know some lads who've been on British Lions tours
has
as
it
well,
got
which have been
the
amazing.
World Rugby Union fans, because that's a rugby union country, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are those people going to go and watch rugby league if it's in the backyard, or are they going to go, rugby league, not watching that?
They would do if they priced it properly.
Well, ticket price is
rather
always
than
an issue.
charging £70 to sit in a £30 seat like they did over here.
Yeah.
Because if you put a rugby union World Cup match on at Saints, I suspect it would be sparsely populated.
Oh, I don't know. There's lots of rugby union clubs around the area, aren't there? There'll be plenty of people going.
People like playing it; they don't like watching it too much.
That's true.
And they know they would. I think you're right there, Steve. I think you're right.
That would be my worry about South Africa. Qatar, I mean, obviously they've got everything in place because they've had the Football World Cup like a few months ago. But the issue is, as I can tell from Gaz is shaking his head there, it's the political side of it, isn't it? And all the human rights issues and the people that died building the stadiums and all that kind of thing that's going to be raised again, and the rugby league associated with that is probably not a good look for us.
If Australia don't want it, because Australia could put it on tomorrow, and then we've got all the players over there, we've got most of the world's supporters over there, and if they don't want to put it on, I think the Pacific Islands and New Zealand, if New Zealand have got an interest, they've obviously got systems in that part of the world
For travelling round.
for the travelling between the ones. And what better if you're like a fan and you think, right, well, England are going to be based in Fiji there. What a place to go and spend a bit, even if they're in Australia.
And what about what it would do for the islands?
I think
Tonga
I would
and
prefer that
Samoa.
option
It'd be
to Australia,
amazing.
because although Australia would put a good World Cup on, I think from the outside, if you're not a rugby league fan, people would see that and go, Australia, then England, Australia, then England, just rotate between those two. And from that point of view, it just gives the game a more narrower, people have a narrower view of the game if Australia do it. I think if you go to the islands and New Zealand, then maybe that will be perceived better, I think, by people outside the game.
Yeah, no, I think that would be a great idea.
I think if you based it in New Zealand but had the home islanders playing at home,
Yeah, why not?
you'd fill the crowd, you'd fill the grounds, all the games.
But we saw that Tonga game against New Zealand in the Australia World Cup.
Yeah.
It was played in New Zealand, wasn't it? I think it was absolutely jammed.
Why not base the nations on their own island? I mean, I don't know what the geographical spread mileage-wise is.
Well, it's flight, isn't it? It's flights.
But it's not like you're travelling a continent.
It'd be amazing that. Tonga's in Tonga, Fiji's in Fiji, Papua New Guinea's in Papua New Guinea.
I think it would be
Samoa's in Samoa.
incredible.
The other issue,
I'm going to have to email somebody, aren't I?
I've been
It'd
reading.
be amazing, wouldn't it? That.
Been reading the other issue is that they're planning on cutting it down to 10 teams, whereas it was 16 here, wasn't it? And
Yeah, four groups of four, wasn't it? And then
so, do we think that format will work again, or do we think 10 teams is more sensible?
I think if you went to that 10-team format on the... Do they call it Oceania, where all the islands are?
You'd fill the crowds. You'd fill
if
the
you went
crowds
to
there.
10 teams and did it on that basis of each team in their own nation, with the exception of Australia and England and France, obviously, but let the Aussies travel, and then I think that for the 10 teams, because...
But you're taking away the opportunity for the likes of Jamaica and Scotland, maybe, to participate in a World Cup.
It's
Developing nations.
Yeah, I would have no... If they said it's 10 teams, it's 16 teams, because the Jamaica thing and that, and it would be nice to see that side of the world and the heritage from that side of the world, but I just think doing it in those locations would be such a big draw.
I think that's where the financing of the World Cup is the problem, in that you get how can you afford to have so many teams that need funding to go and play in certain places? But if you've got full crowds because the home teams, the home nations are at home in that within that group, generating that revenue to keep the grounds full. It's a no-brainer for me. And if you get half decent TV deal,
I suppose the other question is, have they got the stadiums?
Well, they'll all have at least one stadium in
I would presume so, yeah.
And you don't need half a dozen stadiums for 6 games, do you?
No, you only need one. But as long as they've all got one.
And you cut down on the number of TV crews you need to film it.
It'd be marvellous, wouldn't it? What a trip that'd be.
If there isn't the stadiums, then New Zealand have got at least 2.
Yeah.
Probably 3 stadiums that are worthy of big World Cup games. So.
But for the smaller games, you fill the smaller stadiums, and the atmosphere's there, isn't it?
Yeah.
But as they said, though, I don't know whether there is a club structure that would mean there is that many stadiums in some of those. I have no idea what the local Fiji league is or the local. Yeah.
But if you put New Zealand in that
I don't
mix,
think they tend to have professional leagues because that's why you see so many of their players in the NRL.
Yeah. And I think you throw New Zealand in
then you've got enough.
That gives you your stadiums. But either that, I mean, if Australia did it, I'd have no dramas with that, because if they put it on in this country again, because if we learn from the mistakes of a couple of years ago, put it on in this country, and like with that tri-series that we're going to, when you can buy your tickets for 20 quid each instead of 70, now they are the exact same seats that in the World Cup was £70 each for the Saints, 20 quid each. So if you get your pricing structure right, as a last resort, then do it in this country. And have another one in this country.
Saints will be full for that Tonga match.
No, I expect it.
I expected it to be full for the Tonga PNG, but it wasn't. When I bought my tickets for that, it was 75 quid a ticket. And I bought them six months beforehand, and they're the only lock I could buy. And they tried to imply that it was a sellout or it was sold out. Imagine my surprise when I got there and people were getting in for a tenner and 10,000 empty seats.
Were they paying out the door?
It's totally wicked at Saints.
Paying out the door that night? Yeah. So I just boycotted it. I'm not paying that.
75
I went to Warrington, Tonga, Samoa.
We went Tonga, Samoa and Warrington.
Well, that was a great day. I was there as well.
That was a reasonable price, wasn't it?
Yeah. That was 14 quid.
It's more reasonable, yeah, but the Saints matches were stupid.
But that was the first one, because the match before that at Warrington had been £32 to stand on that terrace. The one we went to, they dropped it to £14 because the match before at Warrington there was only 3,500 people there.
Yeah.
When we went, there was 14,000. It was virtually full.
Yeah.
But isn't this typical rugby league? It came out of France had to give back word because organisers admitted that the conditions of financial viability initially defined by the states to support the project were not fully met. In their statement confirming they would no longer host the World Cup. Now, how does that happen? How do you get the World Cup, a World Cup, without putting the guarantees in place and getting it all signed, sealed and delivered?
There's only one sport in which this sort of thing happens.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
And that's rugby league, isn't it?
It's so rugby league.
Yeah, it is. It's the most rugby league thing in the world, isn't it?
Well, that's what happened. And, when they wanted the World Cup to go to be held in its original year, and they couldn't hold it. They couldn't hold anybody to the contracts because they hadn't bloody signed any.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's bonkers.
Like, yeah, you can have it. Can you pay for it? No.
on a similar theme, if it does get taken over by another country or another group of countries, would it be still in 2025 or would it be delayed to 26?
Who knows?
Because I was listening to I think it was BBC podcast in the week, and they were saying maybe try and get the Aussies over in 25 for a series with them, and then play the World Cup the year after to give more time
to build it up,
to organise it and get it right. That's an option, I think.
I mean,
but that would look bad again, wouldn't it? So
again, it looks nonsense, doesn't it?
Because football's got 32 teams, and we're on about 10, and you can't organise that.
We're not in the same.
We're not in the same league
as football. No.
That idea.
Nothing else is though.
No.
That idea of getting the Aussies over, I don't know why. Off tack a bit from the World Cup, and I don't know why we've never pushed for a proper Tri-Nation series with Great Britain, New Zealand, and Australia. If you did a proper Tri-Nation series in this country.
You look at the strength of Tonga and
even Tonga.
Samoa, you could have four.
Now.
Four. 5?
Oh, well, if you did a Tri-Nations with Tonga, Samoa and Great Britain, or whichever.
Yeah.
Steal it, 6 nations, steal the title.
But doesn't Union has 5, doesn't it, in the Southern Hemisphere that play every year?
Yeah, they
Australia,
do.
New Zealand, South Africa, Argentina.
Yeah.
I think there's one more. Yeah, maybe I don't know. Maybe 4 nations. But that's...
Is it not Japan?
They have it every year.
Japan,
yeah,
Japan,
good shout.
yeah.
They have that every year. So we could do something similar to that, I'm sure, in the Southern Hemisphere.
Well, it's the will to do it, and I think if the Aussies are going to be involved, because of the size of their game, they want the financial guarantees in place, don't they?
The NRL is the thing of they will do all these as long as it doesn't impact on their season, their pre-season, their grand final, or their state of origin. As long as it doesn't impact on and then if the players still get enough rest for the following season, but that's just the gulf in the club
You're right,
game.
yeah,
and
that's
the
how
rest
they are, isn't it? But I think the difference this time, if they're hosting it, would be that there wouldn't be any long-haul travelling involved, as there was when they had to come here.
Where I think there's a slight culture change or wind change where the NRL is concerned is, I think, and we've saw it over here, we've saw it now in a few years, that if North Queensland Cowboys turn round to Jason Tamalolo and say, we don't want you going to World Cup, Jason Tamalolo's going to say, well, you can poke your contract, I'm going playing for my country. Because that's what they did to New Zealand. That's when these islands came up, because the New Zealand International tried to put all these restrictions in place, and Tamalolo was the first one that said, no, I'm going playing for my native lands. Screw you, I'm going doing this. But the Australian national side itself, now their players might be like, oh, too diva to do it.
Wasn't that defection of those players one of the best things that ever happened to the international game?
100%.
But we've not built on that, I think, as a game, as a sport.
But
We should have brought them over here to play a series.
You imagine the boost to those players and those countries in their local heartlands if you say, do you know what, we're going to commit a World Cup game and a group stage in your home. We've seen the fans come out, we've seen what they're like, we've seen the way they go on the streets and they're driving cars with flags out the window and stood on the roofs and beeping their horns and all that.
Oh, you take one to Port Moresby in Papua New Guinea, you're talking
bonkers.
The whole population would be out, wouldn't they?
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, lads. I think that's ties up quite a lot of what's been happening, and we'll be back on the end of June to go through what we've predicted here and what's happened, and look forward to an interesting July. And I'll wind it up with a couple of thanks. Firstly to Steve Beach on the old buttons here. Thank you very much, Steve, and to John Rees and Pilks for the use of their facilities.
Yeah, very good of him. Yeah, he's a good one, Rees. Pilks will do the best to look after us.
They do. So, till next time, we'll see you and enjoy your rugby league.
Cheers.
Thank you.